I'm a little bit of a vagabond as a person. I love Robert Louis Stevenson. That poem kind of has been my swan song for a very long time. It's a little bit of a nomadic nature. Lead with conviction. Be it a yes, be it a no. Convince yourself. Be assertive. Have your reasons. Lead with confidence. If you feel helpless, help someone. It's incredibly powerful. Wow. And to me, my legacy is not just what I do professionally. It's all of me. What does my entire ecosystem look like?
Welcome to the latest episode of Women in the Making. Today, I am thrilled to introduce a remarkable woman who has boldly charted her own course while embracing her identity as a woman of color with pride and resilience. Nandini Sankara immigrated from India to the US for college with no support system and knowing no one. Now, in her early 40s, she is the first female person of color officer and vice president at Suburban Propane, a publicly traded powerhouse in 42 states. Nandini was instrumental in launching the Renewable Energy division, showcasing her commitment to innovation and sustainability. Her journey is a living embodiment of Maya Angelou's words. You may not control all the events that happen to you, but you can decide not to be reduced by them. Nandini made that choice long ago, refusing to let go of the limitations others tried to impose to define her. Let's dive deep into her inspiring journey. Nandini, welcome to Women in the Making Season 3.
Thank you so much, Nia, for having me. Really appreciate it.
I'm so excited to hear a lot more about your journey. You belong from a completely different field of expertise that we see here in Seattle. It's all tech.
Right.
And it's very interesting for me to know a little more. So thank you for flying all the way from New York. And I'm glad you're here for us. You grew up in India.
Correct.
And then you came to America as a young girl studying in college. Were there any cultural differences, barriers while growing up in India?
So that's firstly, thank you again, Nia, for having me. And, it's such a pleasure to be here in Seattle. Timing was perfect, so I'm glad I'm here. So a little bit about me. I was born in Bangalore. I moved to Bombay, now Mumbai, when I was very little. So don't really remember Bangalore, but my childhood was basically in sunny shores of the Arabian Sea. Loved the beach. It changed a ton. I'm still very much a beach girl. And essentially, I am incredibly grateful and thankful to my parents. I grew up in a very progressive thinking home where education was very highly valued for both my older sister and I. My sister is a very successful senior executive of the Canadian federal government. She moved out to Canada to pursue her education. I moved out here. Our household, education was a priority. Giving back was a priority. Acceptance and embracing everybody was a priority. And I'm really lucky because growing up in India, I fully understand the question because I have observed a lot. I've seen a lot. There has been a lot of barriers to so many people. And a lot of that could also be based on, society in general, the abject levels of poverty. I mean, Slumdog Millionaire, unfortunately, is not made up. No. It's reality. Spent my childhood in Bombay. I know exactly where that was shot. So I'm just very thankful for everything that I had and all the resources. So I really had this solid and strong platform to build upon that kind of, helped me along my journey every moment of the way.
Yeah. And, I want the audience to understand that when I ask these questions, they are very close to my heart because I grew up in India, where I grew up in an affluent family. But I was also seeing a lot of people who work for us who do not belong to affluent family, and they have kids. Right. And they grew up in an area where we don't have public parks. We don't have the resources that the kids need today. And the reason a lot of people question me, why doesn't India perform the way they should perform in Olympics? And the question comes back that we don't have the resources.
Absolutely.
There are cultural barriers. There are things that we need to fix back home in India that is not available for these people. And every person who even wins an Olympic is like a child winning a trophy is because they have done this all by themselves.
Yeah, very, very true. It's unfortunate, right? And I think the Indian hockey captain for the bronze medal came out and said something. I read this on social media about we really need your help. And I mean, I think what you're bringing up is, and I know the focus of your podcasts are around women and women empowerment. And, it's a truth. Women still can go a long way, every sphere of work, and not just in India, right here in the United States, which has been my home for 25 years, my entire adult life.
Yes.
And to so many of us, I think there's so many other opportunities for women, globally speaking, and India especially, now the world's most populous nation. And, there's some incredible women that come out of that country. And I think there was a much bigger story to be told.
There is. Yeah. And I guess we can totally make a movie out of it.
Absolutely. I hope someone's listening and is going to pick that one up, but that's great.
They can pick 2 stories and make it into a one movie. Were there any societal expectations while growing up or after you came back that you saw needs to be fixed, or you saw that something that you had to overcome? Or were there any gender biases that you had to speak about or publicly come out and work on that?
Again, I'll go back to saying that personally, I was incredibly lucky and grateful to my parents. I did not experience the gender bias that I'm fully aware exists.
Hey,
I am not going to come out and say it didn't exist. I remember seeing, so many of my childhood friends, people I went to kindergarten with, and once we all turned 16, I was looking at colleges, and unfortunately, they were following more traditional paths that their families had put together for them, being a female child, and their path was more to get married, have children, and sometimes it was not entirely their choice, but it was kind of made for them. But in terms of societal obligations, I'll share this. So I'm not sure if this is how it was when you were growing up there, but growing up in, Bombay at that point, just getting into the right college, getting the right degree, getting the right grades was so all-consuming. And I totally fell into that whirlpool of emotions and disappointment. Is this my entire future? I don't think any 17-year-old should feel that kind of pressure.
Yes.
And that was something I went through, most of my friends went through. And again, I know I hope my parents hear this podcast because they were just of the attitude, look, there's so much more to life. You're 17 years old. You've got a long runway ahead of you. The right college, the right degree doesn't define who you are.
Yeah.
And I'm glad they said that to me because growing up middle class from an educated family, it was all about your education. What do you mean you're not going to college? That was not an option. You go to college. So I will say that, societally speaking, I'm definitely one of those that went through that. And I'm actually, the older me realizes that was so not worth it. And whatever I was thinking as a child is so not where I am right now. And I'm in a much better place. So
I agree. I have an 11-year-old and my husband is also from India. And he doesn't think the same way I do because he came from a completely different background. He came from a more middle-class family. Coming to America was his first destination international flight. Oh, wow. While I have traveled from the time I was born.
Wow.
So for me, everything was just the same.
Right.
For him, everything was new. So education played a huge part, of course, for both of us, but I see like a huge difference in conversations that we have with our 11-year-old, that how diligent he wants our kid to be.
Of course.
And I'm on the other side of the story where I'm like, he will be fine. He will figure out his way out, but I am not going to put my son into some ridiculous Asian parent pressure.
Right.
Which means that he is drowning where he should be flourishing.
Yeah, it's the peer pressures kind of come in. And you brought up sports earlier. So I moved to this country. I was Division II soccer. I've played sport my entire life. For me personally, working out, playing sport was always a release. And there were athletics and sports were never given the importance there is here in some other countries. But again, I just happened to come upon those, and I think the sports just give you that whole team mentality that you carry on into so many different areas of life.
Yeah.
Like once you're an adult, you're like, oh, wait, this is teamwork. I played soccer. There are 11 people playing soccer. So you can't really have just one person. That's the whole thing behind that.
And I think I wanted to understand a little more about your personal life. Traumas can be a silent predators and traumas can be silent motivators. Was there any point in your life where you felt you had to run this by you and you had to overcome this a hard way or a soft way?
It's an interesting thing. So we were kind of talking about, my younger days, if you will. And I wouldn't call it a trauma or not even a challenge. It was more of an observation. So growing up, and this was a global observation, right? I would always see top professions. Doctors tend to be more male, but the supporting nurses are women. Decision makers in companies tend to be more male. And let's talk about movies or advertisements. Women are shown as the mom, the homemaker.
Right.
But why can't you be the mom and a CEO? A key decision maker, a mom and a doctor, because there's so many of them going out there and doing that today, right?
Why can't you be cooking and running and playing on the field and still being on NASA and being an astronaut?
Absolutely. And even advertisements, and then I'd see the movies. And this confused me. The 9-year-old version of me was like, wait, what's wrong with this picture? You've got a male lead and a female lead. They're in parody in the movie, but it's always his name about hers. Why is that? So the 9-year-old me had all these grandiose plans and, okay, I need to make a difference. And I had no idea what I was going to do or what I wanted to do, but I always kind of deep down had this idea that I wanted to leave India, move overseas, did not know where, had no plan whatsoever, but I'm a little bit of a vagabond as a person. I love Robert Louis Stevenson. That poem kind of has been my swan song for a very long time. It's a little bit of a nomadic nature. Just to explore the world, explore cultures, and see what really fits me, and vice versa. So that's kind of how I got here.
Oh my gosh, I am so in love with your story, and I cannot wait to dig more, maybe on a separate note. I think in an industry where women's voices are drowned out,
right?
How did you ensure that your voice was heard, and how did you maneuver through that?
So this is an interesting question, and I was actually, I currently work in the energy industry, and last year I was speaking at, I belong to the Women in LPG for our Global LPG Association, and I was speaking at the Women in Energy panel. And a thought that came in is I think as women, it's okay to say yes and no. And one of my favorite quotes, I did not come up with this. I'm not sure who the exact source is. No is a complete sentence. It really is, period.
I love that.
It's okay to say no because at the end of the day, you have to have your voice. You have to find your voice. And it doesn't matter what role you're serving. At the end of the day, what matters for a business? The top line and the bottom line. How are you impacting it? Everybody, regardless of your gender, regardless of who you are, you're going to run into some level of obstacles.
Yes.
I always kind of have this mentality. This is what I tell my team, anybody that asks me for advice. If you're going to say yes or no, say that with conviction. Be prepared in why you're doing that.
Yeah.
And how does that impact the business? What's the goal here?
So true.
So that's kind of the mantra I've always kind of had is lead with conviction. Be it a yes, be it a no. Convince yourself, be assertive. Have your reasons. Lead with confidence.
I think we just had some great viral moments here because I think it was so powerful, Nandini. This was very impactful. And I was just listening to you. I was in awe. I mesmerized. And I almost lost my chain of thoughts, which is good because it gives an opportunity to, create something more new and on the spot. Nandini, I wrote a quote.
Okay.
So I wanted to read that out for you.
Please.
In the face of adversity,
Okay.
I chose to rise. Not just for myself, but for every woman who dreams of a better tomorrow. And like we discussed for segment 1, when you said the power of owning your voice, the power of saying no is so impactful because as women, there's a lot more moments that we have to use that.
Correct.
And I have myself navigated through tough times, through sexual encounters, sexual harassment, molestation.
So
and those were the times where I could not say no. And as a mature woman, when I hear more women like you vouching for the word no, I want you to remember that it should be part of your dictionary.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Leading into segment 2, it's more about leadership and power.
Right.
And I wanted to understand that you are into a big leadership position right now. Did you ever feel like you had the pressure to lead like a man, to be taken seriously at that level that you are right now?
So I'm not a conformist. I think talking to me for 30 minutes, you probably already got that. But this is the way I look at leadership. I don't think there is no recipe to lead. I think a great leader is someone that's almost a chameleon of sorts that can evolve. I mean, as we've got the Gen Zs joining the workforce, you spoke about your kids who are
Yes.
Gen Alphas, and I think it was the Gen Beta, the one after them. How do we, and I've had the absolute pleasure of working with, the baby boomers all the way to Gen Zs.
Yes.
And to me, the way I look at leadership is we over me. How do you bring that team mentality together? It's not one person. I go back to my soccer analogy. I think everybody knows Lionel Messi.
Yep.
And I used to be a big FC Barcelona fan. Messi is one of the best players in the world. But he's got 10 people supporting him, getting him where he is. He cannot get where he is without that amazing team.
Yes.
He had that in Barcelona. It took him forever to find that with Argentina. They did win the World Cup a few years ago. But he's been trying so hard at the highest level.
True.
So to me, a great leader is someone that brings everybody together. And to me, it's less about leading like a man or conforming to any kind of preconceived notions. Because I've heard that about generational notions. I've heard about intragenerational, intergenerational. To me, what is the secret sauce? There isn't one. And also, I think a leadership style needs to constantly evolve.
Yes.
Because if you get stagnant, then you know what? I'm not doing a great job. My team's they're not getting the best of me.
Yes.
And I'm not getting the best of them.
Not at all.
So to me, it always kind of has to be a team. And how does a leader kind of bring that team together?
Yeah.
That's always been my mantra, if you will.
No, I love that. And, people have asked me this question time and again, that I talk a lot about the fact that women are erupting, creating and carving their names in a male-dominated society.
Right.
So I thought today, between you and me, we
Right.
are going to dissect this
Okay.
into small pieces and make people understand
All right.
why we are going to talk about. Before even I dive into the second question, I want people to understand why do we say that we are thriving in a male-dominated society, a male-dominated environment, and a male-dominated career. So I'm going to, divert this question to you because you are at a position where you have carved your name out. You are in a leadership position. And I want you to help people understand that why are we even having these kind of conversations in today's world, and why am I even questioning you? And of course, then I'll answer.
So this is what I'll say. I read a quote recently, and I'm going to mess it up. It was by Malala Yousafzai. She said, I have allowed, I'm speaking loudly. It's something along the lines of speaking loudly. I'm not trying to shout. I'm just trying to speak on behalf of everyone else who do not have a voice. So the way I think I would answer your question, Nia, would be more around, okay, so I am at this position where, I am able to help make a difference. And to me, there's so many which ways you can do that. The simplest way to do that is time. It doesn't take anything, doesn't cost a penny to mentor somebody. Just lend a
I
ear,
love that
listen
you
to
say
someone,
that.
right? Give them 5 minutes of your time. And this is not just women, anyone. Because to me, I work in the energy industry, and I keep getting asked this, how are you going to get the next generation to join in? And I was just like, any industry is cool. It's based on what you make out of it, right? And honestly, I would say a big resounding yes for women that come to me like, hey, what do you think about joining a male-dominated industry? So, but then again, what is a male-dominated industry is what I would ask. Can we say that applies to most industries? I understand that some of them are historically coined male-dominated industries, but I truly believe that anybody and everybody can make a difference, can carve their own path.
Yes.
that's kind of how I know it was not a direct answer to what you
No,
were
I
asking.
love that answer. As a woman
Correct.
leading in a space dominated by men, what's the boldest decision you have made that completely defied expectations?
So I've had, again, the privilege of working across so many different industries. And I'll give the current job I'm in. I work for Suburban Propane. I head up our marketing, brand, PR, market research, pretty much every marketing and brand function rolls into my organization. And, I was hired to enhance the brand, get it ready for the next 100 years. The company's almost century old. Fantastic group of people. We've got 3,300 employees, and the average tenure is tremendous. It's over 15 years. That's kind of unheard of, right?
Yes.
And as I was joining the workforce, I'm like, wow, people really stay somewhere for 15 years. So I was really fascinated when I started there 7 years ago and being tasked with taking the storied brand and revamping it. My first thought was, okay, we always hear about people, process, tools, right? But at the end of the day, process and tools are great. You can't do that without the people.
Yes.
So the goal I kind of set myself was, how do I gain acceptance? And not just acceptance, ownership.
Yeah.
To me, every employee is a brand ambassador. Every single one. And if they don't feel that this revamp was something that made a difference to them, I go back to that rhythm philosophy. What's in it for me? And I'll say this, the brand relaunch was a tremendous success, and we're still constantly evolving. And taking this brand into, sustainability, into renewables. And here we are, year 96, and I'd love to see where we take this the next 20, 30, 40, 50 years, carving that pathway for the next century. So to me, that was, I would say, my top 3 accomplishments in my entire career.
Nandini, there are not a lot of leaders who really speak about that so openly, that you give the employees an opportunity to speak. You give the employees the opportunity to thrive in an environment that they want to stick around. They don't feel that they are pushed just to pay their bills.
Right.
And I think you doing that is creating such a wonderful path for the future employees, for the future generation
Absolutely.
that's going to be part of Suburban.
Right.
And I think it's very important as leaders we remember and follow what she's doing, is to make sure every single person who's part of that company belongs there and they have their voice.
And it's having the voice, and ambassadorship is ownership, right? People have been there 20, 30 years. You've been doing things a particular way. And I came into this fully aware. And also kind of some of that was empathy. How would I feel?
Yeah.
That you're telling me I need to redo everything I was doing. Introducing social media,
Yeah.
reputation management. But at the end of the day, I truly do believe this. Showcasing value. What's a differentiated value proposition, right?
Yeah.
We're running a business. Everyone needs to be, what would make them proud to work at that place? That was the goal I was hoping to achieve. And, in one of our, we've got 3 pillars. That's our brand relaunch. We've got Suburban Commitment, which is what we do 24/7, 365 days. We've got 800 locations, and I know all 3,300 employees are committed to this day in, day out.
Yeah.
Suburban Cares, which is our philanthropic award-winning platform, which,
Congratulations.
Thank you. I mean, one of the first exercises I recall doing was asking, I just did a survey. I was going, okay, think about one word that describes you when you think of work in here.
Yeah.
The consensus was cares. I'm going, wow, caring. That's a beautiful word. People really enjoyed giving back, volunteering. We've got a long-standing relationship with the American Red Cross that I'm absolutely proud of.
Yeah.
The third one was going green, go green with Suburban Propane, and really bringing not just the product, understanding what is it going to take the market. There's 2 ways you do that. There's education.
Yes.
There's innovation. So that's the journey we're on.
Yeah.
But again, we can't do that if all the stakeholders, because people focus just on their customers
Yes.
or their prospective customers. But your employees are such an integral part of that.
They are. And they have a lot more knowledge.
Oh, 100%.
That's one thing I have realized.
Right.
And I've been in and out of companies. But I realized that as an employee, you learn so much about your company.
Right.
And when you don't have a voice, to speak to the leadership, and then you see that something has happened that does not resonate with the company
Exactly.
or as a group of employees,
Right.
it impacts them emotionally more than physically.
Oh, absolutely.
My last question
Please.
is in this segment is, I want to talk about power dynamics.
Okay.
And how do you manage that specifically when dealing with individuals who do not fully appreciate the diverse experiences you bring to the table?
So this is an interesting dichotomy. The majority of my career has been working in multinational companies globally. And I'll give an example of when I was at Aetna, second job after college. And I was working with Aetna, running their pre-Medicare, 50 to 64-year-old healthcare program. And this is the beginning of the so-called Obamacare, Affordable Health Care Act, 09 to 2011. That's when I was there. But the cool part was I was employed by Aetna, but my salary came from AARP because we ran this program with AARP. You're talking about two phenomenal organizations with differing cultures, differing views. And I was the bridge. Simplest answer there, agile, open communication. I had to do that because now I'm literally responsible for both sets. The end of the day, how do I bring the P&L? What are my expectations? What does that EBITDA look like? What are the expectations from both organizations? So constantly keeping that channel of communication open, establishing plans. What does that strap look like? What does that strategic plan look like?
Yeah.
You know, what's our immediate 6 month, 1 year, 5 year, 10 year, and so on look like? And this was the time healthcare was in such a flux.
Yeah.
People called it Obamacare. COBRA really wasn't around. People did not know what was going to happen. We were just coming out of the great layoff in 08.
Yes.
I mean, the economy had collapsed. People were scared about their healthcare, right? And in this country, we need healthcare.
Yes, we do.
All of us need healthcare.
And Obamacare also catered to older people.
Correct.
And that was very important.
Absolutely. But they had not defined
Yes.
all the nuances behind affordable health care at that point. I will say this. I think open communication and understanding the values of both organizations and the goal setting, we ended up just having a lot of successes.
Yeah.
We were Clio nominated for our learning tool. That's the Oscars of the
That's
ad agency
amazing.
world. We worked with Magic Johnson. Mr. Johnson turned 50 in
Yes.
09, and he was our ambassador. I had the honor of working with him, leading that endeavor, and a lot of great things came out of it. And I'll say this, it made me a much stronger, better, smarter, more strategic individual, because I was working with completely different organizations every single day
Yeah.
and catering to both of them. So day one, I knew I had to figure this out or it'll figure me out. So that would be my answer
And
there.
you learned a new abbreviation, AOC, Agile Open Communication. It's going to stick with me now. So I'm going to end this segment, and I like to read because I don't remember my
No
quotes.
problem.
Success in a male-dominated industry is not just about proving them wrong.
Right.
It's about proving to ourselves that we belong.
Okay.
Nandini, our conversations are so powerful, and I can't wait for people to hear this. But moving to segment 3, I want to talk a little more about empowerment and legacy and reflecting on your journey from India to America. And you've lived in America, I guess, for longer than you've lived in
Yes.
India.
Yes.
What kind of legacy you want to leave behind? What kind of message do you want to tell people, especially someone from a similar background?
I think a living legacy is so important. The great Myanmar leader from ever since I was a kid. And I'm going to paraphrase it. I hope I get this right. If you feel helpless, help someone. It's incredibly powerful. And to me, my legacy is not just what I do professionally. It's all of me. What does my entire ecosystem look like? And you know, at this point in my journey, my life journey, as I'm carving my path for myself, giving back has become a huge component of that. And the legacy I would want to leave behind is if anybody, it doesn't matter where you're from, what gender you are, if my insights have helped you, you know, get whatever success you're looking for, I'd be honored because I don't think there's a roadmap. Everybody's roadmap looks different. And there's 15 different ways you can get to your destination, you know, most of the time. So I look at traffic like obstacles, right? Nobody's life is without challenges and obstacles. And if they say it's obstacle free, they're lying. it's going to
Somebody
happen.
had an obstacle to create puzzles for the little kids.
Oh, wow.
There are two ways to go, right?
Absolutely.
We've done those kind of puzzles all our
For
life.
sure.
And who created that? When I think about that as an adult, somebody must have had an obstacle in their life that they created this fun little game for the little kids where you can choose two paths to go to the final destination.
But if you think about those little kids, they are so open to finding different paths. They're open to making friends.
Yes.
As adults, you brought up belonging, right? And I kind of always felt that I've had a little bit of an unfair advantage just because I moved here by myself 25 years ago for college. And I had to make friends. I had to find my own community, my role in it. And, being an immigrant, a very young, adult in the greater New York City area, and it was fun. If I could redo it, I would do it all over again because I was not alone. You find your community, you find your role in it, you find your purpose. And that purpose evolved. It definitely changes. Yeah. And that experience has really helped. It's less to me about fitting in. It's more about what does that journey look like?
Yes.
And maybe it is a stop in my longer journey. Maybe that stop is a destination that I'm there for a long time. That's kind of how I've approached my career in so many which ways.
I mean, you're really modest about that, but I'm sure there are so many people who still came like you and are still figuring it out.
Oh, I am too. I mean, every single day, I still believe that if someone says they figured it all out, please call me because I would love to hear how that works.
What's one piece of advice you want to give to a woman who's entering into a similar field like yours, but is terrified to do this on by herself?
Do it. Don't let fear consume you. Fear is a great motivator, right? Because anybody that climbs mountains, you said you like to hike.
Yes.
I mean, it's like working out. Like once you start lifting, I don't know, 20 pounds, 25 pounds, it comes too easily. The challenge goes away.
Yes.
And your body kind of stops reacting. You stop seeing the results.
Yes.
So I'd say try it. Don't be scared because you can't let fear consume you. And listen, I'm fully aware there are people around the world that do not have the opportunities that so many of and I've had and I've been able to leverage. But try. Don't give up.
I agree, Nandini. That's so well said. And I want to also say that fear never goes away.
Oh, it definitely does.
Every time I sit here and I hear stories of women like you, women who are extremely successful, women who have conquered a lot, women who have achieved a lot, women who have survived through circumstances that we can't even imagine, I am still shaking up here. It's hard for me to put a smiley face and show the world that this is easy. Nothing is easy, but you have to let the fear not hold yourself into.
Can't let you paralyze
just
you.
Let yourself free and remember that you belong where you are.
Absolutely.
And you cannot let fear control you ever.
Honestly, self-belief kind of overtakes everything else.
It does.
When you really believe you can do something, you can move mountains.
Yes.
I know we read about this, our parents say this to us.
It's so true.
It's true.
It is.
You put your mind to something, you can actually do it.
You have to be unstoppable. And nothing can shake you at that point.
It's only normal and human to be anxious about something new, a new job, a new sport, a new whatever, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So my last question to you in this segment.
Okay.
How do you want to be remembered as? As a woman who simply succeeded in a man's world or someone who changed the rules entirely?
Honestly, the way I would answer this is a bit of both and then some, right? Mm-hmm. And because professional success is just a part of it.
Yes.
And to me, that's transient, right? I've been through a layoff. Mm-hmm. I left a job because the company moved to a location that I did not want to move to. That was a personal choice. Yeah. And so to me, that's a transient success. And I always look at my life kind of two ways, right? I bucket list professionally and personally. And what does the amalgam of the two look like? Mm-hmm. So the legacy, or what would I be remembered for, is honestly just I existed. I was a good person. And hopefully I've left something behind that, somebody else can use. And, recently my parents have been rescuing elephants for a very long time.
Wow.
And I I work with Save Elephants Foundation in Chiang Mai. I went out there a couple times. And this baby elephant, she's 4. She's absolutely adorable. And, just leaving a legacy behind doesn't have to be winning accolades or awards or any of that. It doesn't, to me, self-worth and net worth does not necessarily equate. Mm-hmm. Your self-worth can be much higher than your net worth. And that's kind of how I would answer that.
Oh my gosh, I love that. Self-worth, net worth. Okay. And in between the lines, you'll have to watch this podcast. And like Michelle Obama says, who's at your dinner table? To summarize this segment, like Nandini said, it's about community. It's about the power of people that surround you, who's at your dinner table. And those are the people who's going to pull you up at every moment that you are down. And you need them as part of your life.
Oh, for sure.
And lastly, a mentor. The strongest leaders are those who dare to break the mold. And Nandini's story of leaving behind cultural expectations to pursue her dream is a powerful reminder of that. With that, we are towards the end of the show, segment 4, and this is going to be a rapid fire, quick, insightful. And so are you ready?
I am.
Okay. Favorite place in India?
I would go with Mumbai just because
you're born.
I was raised there
in
childhood,
Mumbai.
The Arabian Sea, yes.
One word that describes your journey.
To be continued. 3 words.
With the 3 dots.
3 dots.
Tea or coffee?
Tea. Matcha specifically, if you needed to know.
If you weren't in your current profession, what would you be doing right now?
I'd be exploring the world. I don't even need to think about that. I've lately been spending a lot of time looking into the Pacific Ring of Fire, looking into volcanoes, and I'm fascinated by the world. And I maybe an archaeologist. I don't know. I'd be doing something.
I was about to say that.
Something volcanologist, I think that's called. I'd be out there doing something.
I feel like I'm reading your mind.
Marine biologist. I would be out exploring the world, different parts of the world. That kind of goes with my vagabond theme.
All-time favorite book?
There's a lot of different ones, to be honest. Mm-hmm. The World is Flat is something I actually recently reread by Thomas Friedman. It's just kind of thinking about what are the principles and, how does it resonate and how do we keep evolving? Kind of has been the theme of our conversation today. Be it culture, be it generations, how do you continuously evolve? And I just reread The World is Flat.
Wow. I need to read that book.
It's really good. I mean, I read this years ago and it was in my bookshelf. And I'm like, I picked it up. And somebody else asked me this question and it just resonated.
Mm-hmm. And the last question for this episode. If you had to have dinner with a historical figure, who would it be and why?
Can it be 2 people and do they have to be historical? Mm-hmm. I'd love to meet Aung San Suu Kyi and Indra Nooyi. 2 Asian women, 2 Asian powerhouses. And absolutely, I'd love to meet both of them.
Love that answer. Nandini, thank you so much for coming to the show. Absolutely. It was my absolute honor and privilege. I had the most amount of learning in today's episode. You're such a power-packed person. You have so much knowledge and wisdom. And I'm so glad that you were part of the show.
Thank you so much for having me. And I really am honored to be here. And best of luck to you.
Thank you.
Can't wait to see this podcast grow and become bigger and bigger and impact the world.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Nandini reminds us that leadership isn't just about where you end up, but how boldly you chose to begin. Nandini, thank you so much for sharing your incredible journey with us today. Your story is not just inspiring, it is a powerful reminder that resilience, courage, and the will to break barriers can lead to extraordinary success. We are so honored to have you join us today on Women in the Making. To our listeners, thank you for joining us once again. Stay tuned for more stories that inspire, challenge, and empower. Until next time, keep breaking those boundaries and creating your own path. Don't forget to follow, share, and subscribe.